In a prison in North Korea, a CIA agent named Evelyn Salt is brutally tortured to force her into confessing her espionage activities, but she insists that she is there only for business purposes. Some time later, her fellow agent, Ted Winter, comes to pick her up through a prisoner exchange program. Salt is confused by this action because, according to protocol, saving one life is not worth compromising the identities of hundreds of undercover agents. However, Ted reveals that the decision was not made by the CIA, but rather due to pressure from Mike, Salt's close friend. When Mike found out about the treatment Salt received, he filed a petition to the Senate and the State Department until the CIA could no longer withstand public pressure and ultimately gave in to save her. 2 years later, Salt and Mike are married and live together with a dog and a pet spider that belongs to Mike, who is an arachnologist. At this point, Salt is only assigned to handling documents at the CIA. One afternoon, Agent Peabody asks for her help to interrogate a Russian defector who has just arrived, since Salt is fluent in Russian. The man introduces himself as Orlov and immediately notices Salt's wedding ring, commenting that having a husband would interfere with an agent's job. He claims to have cancer and used to work for the FSB, both of which are confirmed as true by the system, allowing him to provide more information. He tells them that in 1975, a Russian patriot kidnapped babies to be trained as the best spies in the world from an early age, indoctrinated and trained brutally. When they grew up, they were sent to the United States as sleeper agents ready to be activated at the right moment. That moment was now near, specifically during the funeral of the US Vice President, where one of the agents named KA-12 was assigned to assassinate the Russian president. The KA program itself had become a legend during the Cold War era, so the CIA agents believed Orlov was making it all up. They ended the interrogation, but before Salt left the room, Orlov revealed that the KA-12 agent was Evelyn Salt. Salt was stunned to hear this and believed she was being framed. She asked Ted for permission to call Mike, worried for his safety after Orlov's comment about the wedding ring. Unfortunately, Mike did not answer. Peabody decided to lock Salt in the room while the CIA discussed their next move. At the same time, Orlov was being escorted out in an elevator by 2 agents, but he managed to kill them with a hidden knife in his shoe and escaped from the building. The chaos allowed Salt to exit the holding room under the pretense of going to the bathroom. She used the emergency stairs, but agents quickly noticed and sealed all exits.
Yes, sir.
Where's she going? Track her.
Evelyn, is Mike there?
No, I'm sorry. He's left after lunch. All right.
North hallway.
Salt used a fire extinguisher to obscure security cameras, then received a call from Ted, who said her actions made her look guilty. However, Salt insisted that finding Mike was the most important thing. She snuck into a storage closet and assembled a makeshift bomb from cleaning supplies, then detonated it in front of the tactical team trying to capture her. Afterward, she grabbed a gun from one of the agents and used it to shoot through a window and escape. A few blocks later, Salt managed to get into a taxi and tried calling Mike again, but still received no answer. She destroyed her SIM card to avoid being tracked, while remembering the time Ted asked her to get close to Mike because he was an important scientist who could be used as a reason to enter North Korea. When Salt arrived at her apartment, Mike was nowhere to be seen, and signs indicated he had been kidnapped. Salt quickly packed a bag, took a weapon and Mike's pet spider, and escaped through the window with their dog, just as the CIA team arrived.
Go! Offense clear!
Minute clear!
Peabody was frustrated to find the apartment empty, and Ted began to suspect that Salt might be telling the truth and had been framed. Salt then climbed into a neighbor's apartment, left the dog there, changed clothes, and reminisced about her relationship with Mike, which had started as a mission but had turned into true love. Shortly after, Salt exited the building wearing a hat, but Ted recognized her and a chase began.
Stop!
Here, I'm innocent!
On the ground! Don't make me put you down, son! Put the goddamn gun down!
Somebody is setting me up!
There's nowhere to run! Quit now! Fuck fucking place now! Route 1 heading north. There she is.
Okay, take it down.
When a motorcyclist passed by, Salt stole the motorcycle and rode away to evade capture. Peabody received a report that Salt's past matched Orloff's claims. She was an orphan who had been sent to Russia. Salt later stopped at a bar to tend to her wounds and change clothes, then took a bus to New York. During the journey, she recalled the moment she was released from prison and confessed to Mike that she was actually a CIA agent, even though she wasn't supposed to. But Mike still accepted and loved her. Upon arriving in New York, Salt stayed in a luxury hotel under a fake name and stole a coat from the wardrobe. In the room, she removed her contact lenses and false teeth, revealing her true identity as a Russian spy. It turned out that Orloff's arrival earlier was the signal that the time had come. Salt gathered weapons, extracted poison from the spider to coat her bullets, and downloaded the subway map to plan the assassination of the Russian president. She dyed her hair black and remembered how easily she had once entered the CIA and earned their trust. The next day, as crowds filled the streets for the vice president's funeral procession, Salt boarded a subway train. The station leading to the church was closed due to the event, but Salt had already prepared a smoke bomb to distract the authorities and exited the train secretly, navigating through the tunnels using the map. Using this route, she successfully entered the church unnoticed and began disabling the guards until she reached the area beneath the podium where the Russian president was delivering his speech. Ted and Peabody, having received reports of missing guards, rushed to the location, but Salt had already planted a bomb in the ceiling. The explosion dropped the Russian president into the basement, and Salt immediately shot him with a poisoned bullet. Peabody found Salt there, but she surrendered and allowed herself to be captured. As she exited the church, Ted looked disappointed and angry at Salt's betrayal. The Russian president was reported dead en route to the hospital, and in the police car, Salt remembered her childhood at the training facility. She had undergone plastic surgery to change her face and obtained a new identity as an American citizen. When the police vehicle reached a bridge, Salt attacked the officers, caused a pileup, and jumped out of the car as it plunged into the river. Thanks to the airbag, Salt survived and escaped the crash site by stealing a hat from a nearby store. Some time later, she boarded a ship and recalled the moment she was brought back to America by an adoptive family that was ready to wait for new orders. Upon arriving at the port, she saw news coverage of anti-American protests in Russia due to their president's death. In a bar, she met Orloff, who welcomed her as the perfect creation of the KA project. Orloff criticized her decision to marry, but Salt explained that it was part of her cover. To test Salt's loyalty, Orloff took her to a secret base and showed her that Mike was being held inside a water tank. They slowly drowned him to observe Salt's reaction, who remained calm even though her eyes revealed deep suffering. Convinced that Salt could still be trusted, the agents welcomed her, and Salt recognized familiar faces from her training days. Orloff then informed her of the next step, to take over control of America's nuclear arsenal. Salt would meet a NATO agent on a plane who would give her the final instructions. Without hesitation, Salt killed Orloff with a bottle for destroying her life. She then took a gun and grenades and massacred everyone in the facility. Unfortunately, she was too late to save Mike, who was already dead, and she mourned while remembering their wedding day. Soon after, she boarded a plane and met Schneider, an old friend from the training facility who was now a colonel. Schneider brought her into the White House as an attaché, where they planned to kill the American president. He also informed her that another agent had already infiltrated the area. Hours later, they arrived in Washington. Salt wore an official uniform to disguise herself. They entered the White House without issue and saw that the CIA was also present at the meeting. Schneider pretended to go mad, pushed Salt, and opened fire on the surrounding people. The president was immediately secured by guards and taken to the bunker, while Schneider blew himself up. Ted informed the team that Salt might be on site. Salt used the chaos to steal an access card and change her costume. She followed the elevator route that carried the president and neutralized guards to enter the hallway leading to the bunker. Salt destroyed the door control panel and surveillance cameras. Inside the bunker, the president was reviewing the possibility of launching nuclear weapons based on intel that Russia was mobilizing. Some agents went out to investigate the disturbance, and Salt managed to defeat them.
Juliet. X-ray, Sierra, 7 Alpha.
And it's not, what's your location?
That's her. That's Evelyn Salt.
The president began contacting generals to request the nuclear launch codes. As Salt approached the room, Ted asked for a weapon but was refused by a guard. Without hesitation, Ted grabbed a gun and killed everyone, including the president.
And Dad is dead. Sit down.
Salt found the door locked and spoke to Ted through the intercom. Ted revealed that he too was a Russian agent, and the reason he never admitted it was because Salt was of a higher rank. Salt realized that Ted was planning to launch missiles toward the Middle East to provoke those countries into attacking America. She pretended to want to help, but Ted saw the news that the Russian president had survived and was only temporarily paralyzed by Salt's spider venom. Realizing that Salt had betrayed them, Ted admitted that he had been the one to persuade Orlov to use Salt and that he was also the one who kidnapped Mike. As Ted used the president's hand to authorize the missile launch, Salt shot the control panel and managed to break in. They fought fiercely, but Salt ultimately overpowered Ted and stopped the launch. The security team entered and shot Salt, but she survived thanks to a bulletproof vest. Salt was captured, and since the cameras were down, Ted still appeared to be a CIA hero. Peabody came to investigate and heard new intel about Orlov and his followers, which made him start to doubt everything. As Salt was escorted out, she saw Ted steal scissors from a medic. She quickly reacted, threw her handcuffs around Ted's neck, and leapt to kill him. Shortly afterward, Salt was in a helicopter with Peabody demanding an explanation. Salt revealed all of Ted's plans and that she could have killed the president at the church but chose not to. She swore to hunt down all remaining double agents. Peabody, who received confirmation that Salt had killed Orlov, finally believed her and realized she was their only hope. Since no one would believe this story, they decided to act outside the law. Peabody secretly unlocked Salt's handcuffs, and as the helicopter flew over the river, Salt jumped out and escaped.
Go get him.
Peabody pretended to be surprised and ordered the helicopter to search the area, while Salt had already swum ashore and escaped into the forest. Sometime later, the media reported that the new American president visited Russia to establish peace. In his speech, he declared that all secret agents, including Salt, were dead. However, he also mentioned that he was an orphan from an accident in Russia, implying that he too was a secret agent. The moral message of the film Salt, 2010, is that true loyalty is not always defined by someone's origin or background, but by the choices made in difficult moments. Evelyn Salt was raised as a programmed spy meant to destroy the country she would later protect, but love and humanity led her down a different path. This film teaches us that in a world full of betrayal and manipulation, one can still hold on to their conscience, and that the truth often lies beneath the surface. Even when betrayed, doubted, and left with nothing, Salt chose to protect others even at great personal cost. It's a story of willpower, resilience, and the belief that real change comes from within. If you enjoyed this video, don't be shy, hit the like button, and if you disliked it, hit the dislike button twice just to be sure. You should watch the full movie. Thank you very much for watching.